Welcome to What's Buzzing, a special podcast series by Busy Bees Malaysia and KD123.com. I'm Sabrina from KD123 and I'll be your host for this series. This series is extra special as it's also in conjunction with the Children's House Montessori 40th anniversary. And for those who might not be familiar with KD123, KD123 is a children education media platform that helps parents in Malaysia discover preschools, enrichment centers, and a wide range of child-related services. We also share parenting content and guides to help make decision-making a little less overwhelming. At the same time, we work closely with early childhood education providers, helping them get discovered by the right parents, build their visibility, and grow their enrollment through our platform and marketing support. Joining me throughout the conversation is Aunty Nan, founder of the Children's House Montessori. And I think, right, Aunty Nan, before we get started, maybe you could share a little bit about yourself to our listeners, because I think some parents already know you, but for those who don't, it'd be nice to hear a bit about your background.
Yes, I would love to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Nan Sivell and known to the children as Aunty Nan, known to the teachers as Aunty Nan as well. My life with children spans 40 years, but I was first introduced to early childhood education exactly 3 years before. So that means 43 years ago. And this was in London in a college called AMI, which was founded by Dr. Maria Montessori. And I was a student there for 2 years of theory and a whole year of internship in 3 schools. And it was then that I had a revelation. I had a realization how wonderful and how magnificent the mind of the child is from birth to 6. And when I was down on the floor teaching children, I saw all the wonderful manifestations of their development right there from the age of 2.5 to 6, and they could gain multiple intelligences just by being in the classroom, a prepared environment that is suitable for them, the Montessori way.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I think it really helps set the context for today's conversation. Now, I think this is something many parents are thinking about right now, right? With the possible shift of children entering primary 1 at the age 6. One big questions keep coming up.
Mhm.
Is my child ready? Right? And honestly, right, Auntie Nan, this is something that I'm also going through myself right now. My son is 5 this year, and I catch myself observing him a lot like, okay, is he really ready? Right? Or am I just overthinking everything? So I'm really glad we're having this conversation today. So let's start with a term we hear all the time, but maybe don't fully understand.
Mhm.
What does school readiness really mean?
Mhm. Right. Now, I'm going to share my experience with this readiness of school is all about. When I was in the classroom, I have children who leave us by 5, and the child would probably have been with us for 2 years. And there was no requirement of readiness because these children are foreign children going into the English medium private school like the Alice Smith and other private institutions. So they leave us and they transition. The transition is very, very seamless. They just go into reception class. And in this class, the teachers are well aware of the maturation at that age, at 5, early 5s. They know, one, that the child of the early 5s are already expressive. They can already express their needs for toileting, their needs to, if they're hungry, or if someone is not it's a little rough with them, they know all about it, so they can express it. And they also can follow instructions. And usually the instructions will be a complex one and not a simple instruction like sit down. They will have to know, and they will know by 5 that, you know, wash your hands, please, and then go to the table and sit down. That's 3 concepts, and they will understand it. So that is readiness of instruction, readiness, understanding of concepts, and following it through. They will also know their things. They know that it is their bag. They know that it is their shoes. They know their names. In fact, because of that, they are 5, they already should know how to write their names because hand dexterity is already there, and they can write within the lines, they can write their names, that it's from left to right, and they can identify alphabets. So they already have what I would call the basic intellectual skills. Now, socialization. They are very good at socialization because it's nature. They are born to socialize. They are born to interact. They love to communicate. They love to play. So they know. And then if you give them instructions during playtime, line up before you go to the ground, they follow it. They are ready. All right? Now, let's look at emotions. Emotions is a little bit more deeper, and we usually don't get to see it easily because they don't, sometimes when they are ultra sensitive, they are not going to say that I don't like big school. Because remember, if they've been in a preschool for 2 years, the environment is gentler. The things that they can do in a preschool, a quality preschool, is a lot more. And they have things they can choose. The teachers are speaking to them in a nicer way, and the group is less. They go to a big school, infant class. In this British system, there will be at least 25 in a class. Whereas in a preschool, during group time, they are exposed to perhaps 15 or less. So they will see the difference because they already are discerning. They can see the difference between a preschool and big school. However, if emotionally they are feeling secure because they are secure in the preschool, they are secure at home, they have no fear. So adaptation is so much easier in a big school. What parents have to do is be aware of their emotions. Perhaps they don't really like the assembly because it's loud usually, and there's a lot of crowd, lots of other children, and big teachers are shouting sometimes. But it's a process of adaptation. We get the feedback from parents that they're taking a little bit longer to adapt to the situation in the classroom. Sitting for a long time and listening longer. They have to listen to the teacher, and they can't really interrupt. Whereas in a preschool setting, they are allowed to see things. So the awareness of the parents is important to give the support, and the patience of the parents to wait until they adapt and emotionally become stable, because transition will always be there, for them to face.
Right. I mean, I really like that perspective. Right. Because you're right. As parents, we tend to focus on only the visible things. Right. Like whether they can read, count, or write. But what you're saying is the less visible things as well, like confidence, independence, even how they handle emotions. is also as a sport, right?
Right.
And I can really relate to that because sometimes I see my son doing pretty okay academically,
Mhm.
but when it comes to doing things on his own, like, or managing his frustration, that's when I start questioning more. Like, so that actually gives me a different way of looking at readiness,
Mhm.
which brings me to something I've always wondered. Why do children of the same age show such different levels of readiness?
Mhm. Right. Remember, there's nurture and there's nature. Now, what is nature? Nature is the child is born with a lot of genetic mix. And genetic inheritance have to be taken seriously by parents because it is very complex and and this really determines what I call their emotions. If your child takes a long time to be gregarious because you want your child to be gregarious. That means, really confident to be the leader of a group, be confident to have the confidence to initiate this and that. But not everyone can do that at 5 or 6 or 7. If by nature, the child has got what we call the deep rooted insecurity that is complex to see. You can't see this deep seated insecurity because birth itself is already a trauma. Genetic inheritance really influences the child's makeup or personality. However, there is nurture. Nurture is environmental, is influence. That means you have a say in it. You decide what it should be. A home that is very positive. There's a lot of emotional support. He is listened to. He is, loved. He's protected. He doesn't feel any fear. He's not judged. He's not tested because he's very fragile. A test or comparing him with someone else all affects his what I call fragility during this period of emotional development. Now, emotional development is very, very important for parents to be aware of because all the wonderful experience that he has gained during childhood stays and has an impact throughout his life. So, if you feel your child is sensitive, and you think that the child is not going to adapt easily socially, but you know that you can give him a little bit more time in the home to nurture it, to reinforce it, you have a choice to delay his entry. You can wait a bit. You are the one who has to decide by, truly observing your child. However, parents usually have a different perspective. They see one side of the child, but there's also the other side of the child that teachers see. Please accept the teacher's observations. If the teachers say he is very good at socializing. He interacts very easily. He is such a friendly child. He articulates a lot in class. He answers questions and he can sit up at the table and do his writing, his name, and he can put it away when we ask him to put away things. And he solves problems without getting angry. He's respectful of the materials and he is understands instruction. Take it because you see your relationship with a child is, I would say, deeper. And mothers usually gets what I call this anxiety. Mhm. always thinking, oh dear, my child is not ready, because you tend to plant this negativeness. But please remember that the child by 5 really has the confidence. Has the confidence. They might not be adapting on day 1, but they will adapt. By the time it's 2 weeks, they'll find a new friend. Or if another friend is also going with them, it's even better. They only need one familiar face to be joining them to big school.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially what you mentioned about security and the environment that the children grow up in, right? I think we sometimes overlook how much that shapes their readiness as well, right? But after hearing this, it's a good reminder that every child develops differently. So in that case, if we bring this into something more practical, because I think parents like me always want to find something they can actually do. So if that's just one thing parents can focus on this week to help their child be more ready for primary 1, what would you recommend, Aunty Nan?
I would recommend, Sabrina, for you to do a big school project.
And what's the project?
Well, firstly, you have to be prepared for this big school, because a mother or father must discuss which school the child needs to go to or wants to go to. And then tell the child that, we are going to look at this school together, because all children, after they reach 6, they have to go into this big school.
Mm-hmm.
All the children around the world are doing that. 50% of the world's countries start their children at 6. So Malaysia is aligning to the global practice, and it's been going on for years. So there's something to be said about this decision of 6 years old, all right? So you do the big project, you take him to the school that you've chosen, you look at it and you tell him that it is much bigger than your preschool, but all big schools are like this. There'll be lots more children. Give him what I call the truth that he is facing. He can absorb it because his mind is already used to stories. So you expand this. This story is a big school project, a big school story. The classes, discuss with him about the classes, the teachers. The teacher, you will have a different teacher, you will have different children. There will be, you'll have to sit on a desk. If you share all the elements that he's going to be facing, and all the other children are facing it as well, he will absorb it, and that helps, his understanding, and then he will just be ready for it. So what we do in preschool, and I used to do this when I know that a group of children are leaving to go to big school, so I will tell them the story of big school, and I will show them pictures of big school with lots of children, and I will tell them that, in big school, you have to listen a lot more than talk. You have to listen to your teachers. And you have to also line up. All the time you have to line up. And you won't have things that you can choose, because it's the teachers who will choose for you. Tell them that.
Oh, it sounds simple, but very powerful.
It is powerful, because you see, your communication with your child must be focused on what is his new experience, because experience has to be positive for him to grow up to be a positive person. You cannot have any anxiety when he is that young. From birth to 6, no stress, no anxiety, because it stays too much in children. and it will manifest later. You know, when the research on depression was done for the 13 to 18-year-olds, they discovered that all the children who are suffering from depression, bipolarism, they all had a very insecure childhood. Very insecure, very stressful, very anxious. The atmosphere in the home is always hostile because parents are unhappy. That's the loss in the family, or parents the marriage is not you know loving, and it affects this child who's absorbing everything. So if, let's say, Sabrina, you've given the right foundation, he is secure, he is loved, and he is talked to every day. You focus on him, and what you're seeing is just a bit of sensitivity. He's not this exuberant child that you think he should be by 6. But if you get a perspective of the teachers, you use your perspective, and you know that sooner or later he has to face big school. That's part of his educational life. You see it. 11 years of school, starting from 6 now and not 7. So you must support him. The more he knows, the more he's aware, the more clear what big school is all about, or what is a classroom situation, the better for him.
Right. I mean, that's a really good reminder for me, Aunty Nan, because actually, right, I think sometimes as parents, we feel like we're not doing enough, right? Like we need to enroll him for more classes, more activities, more everything. But actually, it is just as simple as just like give him assurance,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Give him assurance. So, right. So before we wrap up, I think it would be really helpful for parents listening if there's one takeaway from today's conversation about readiness, right? What's one thing they can start doing this week, Aunty Nan?
Well, you have to introduce the topic. If you are aware that that's the next experience your child is going to have, introduce the topic and talk to them about it. Remember that the child reaches his potential by 6. His full potential of 90% of intelligence. Remember, 90%. This is the new research. And if he has 90% of the intelligence, understands, he understands instructions, he can relate to you well, he's sociable, he knows his things, he knows how to sort out his things. Just be aware of what would be the difficulties. So I would advise parents, A, to observe, and then talk to him about the things he has to remember. His bag, what are the things he needs to put inside? Set what I call the routine and the order. And of course, if you have been not careful about his limits, like bedtime, washing hands, or going to the toilet and flushing and finishing his a meal and carrying things and putting it away. He has to show a lot more independence of things, because none of the primary teachers gonna help the child to pack his own bag. So if you show him how to do it nicely and remember the things in the bag, you are the one who sets the order. And you can start the routine, and it has to be consistent at least a couple of months before he enters big school. Because it's repetition of doing it that will enable him to develop what I call the skills to face the challenges of big school.
Yeah.
If I were you, if you think that his concentration span is, let's say, limited, you're going to set a time where you say, in big school, you can't walk around and just do one piece of writing. So today, let's do a drawing, let's do a little painting, and let's, after that, do a cutting around the lines, and then let's put it, fold it nicely, do a little handicraft that will last for more than half an hour with him.
All right.
So the preparation for big school rests on the mother as well as this child.
Yeah, actually, it could. I totally agree because it could just be one small consistent thing, right? So thank you so much, Aunty Nan, for sharing your insights today. And to all the parents listening, if you're feeling unsure, you're definitely not alone. If you'd like to explore more resources or preschools, you can visit kitty123.com. We'll see you in the next episode of What's Buzzing. And remember, it's not just about starting school, it's about starting right. Thank you.
Yes.